Hello, everybody. Welcome to this nice session about SEAPATH. I will not be the only one doing talks today, so please stay here. There is many interesting talks following me. I'm Eloi Bail. I'm working for Savoir-faire Linux. I'm doing open source since, let's say, 15 years now. And I'm the technical steering committee chair of the projects since more than 2 years. So I will try to have a look into the past on the projects to see what we've done, the recent improvements, and of course the future developments for the project. A few words about me and our company. So Savoir-faire Linux, we are not actually OT people, we are pure IT people. We are working in industrial products since 25 years in Canada and in France. Actually, we are working in a lot of different areas like medical devices, robotic, avionics, railway, and myself, I was involved in many projects like this. We are member of the LF almost since the beginning, and we are the Linux Foundation member since more than 10 years. We are also member of the Yocto project, that is also a Linux Foundation project. And actually, something interesting, we were working on SEAPATH and we received from RTE in 2022 a supplier trophy for what we've done on SEAPATH. So thanks RTE for that. The story is quite simple. I had the chance to meet RTE in 2019 in Open Source Summit in France. And RTE was having this idea of virtual substations. And actually, I kickstarted the project with RTE. Aurélien Ouattara is not here, but we were working together. And I think fun fact, we were remembering quite well that because actually we kickstarted that during the pandemic. So Aurélien, like me, were dealing with kids and with virtualization. And everything that was done after months of development, with me, of course, with some other people from SFL and RTE, we decided to open source that, and it became SEAPATH. So this talk is not to explain what is SEAPATH. I think it's necessary for some of you to know what is SEAPATH in one slide. So I will define SEAPATH as a common architecture that is open OS agnostic. It's and since the beginning, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so it's an aggregation of third-party open source software. It's an operating system that the goal is to host virtual machines, basically, that would host OT applications. For instance, protections, but not only protections. The goal of virtualization is to aggregate different software, so gateway, protections, SCADA, yeah. So most of the components are well known in the industry. We are using Linux kernel, which is with the preempter T, because we want to achieve low latency and deterministic CPU processing. We are also using high availability features thanks to third-party, again, components like pacemakers, Ceph, that are well-known because they are developed by big companies or maintained by big companies. Ceph, for instance, is maintained by Red Hat. And they are used in other industries like the telco. So it allows you to have an active and passive mode and manage cluster to be safe for power shutdown, for instance. We are using the de facto virtualization technologies named KVM that is used by default on Linux systems, QEMU and libvirt to expose configurations. We are using Open vSwitch to provide to you advanced networking capabilities. And last but not least, we are using Ansible to make sure that we can actually deploy, maintain, and scale configurations for between your different hypervisors. So I know that some talks in this day will, for instance, mention the use of Ansible. So I advise you to go there. And there is also many talks on YouTube SEAPATH channel where everything is detailed. So I think it's important right now to look into the past. SEAPATH is quite young because it's a 6 years journey. So, you know, if you consider the longevity of substations, it's quite new. I made some statistics, and it's according to LFX, we do have about more than 8,000 commits on SEAPATH. As you can see, since the beginning, this is always growing. So again, thanks to all the contributors on the projects for doing that and for sharing what they've done. So as I said, we start the project in late 2019, and this was actually released in December 2020 with actually all the architectures that I was presenting previously. So since the beginning, we are embracing substations requirements. So we are using CI/CD to make sure we can test what we are doing. Because we are using SEAPATH in critical environments, we were doing a lot of cybersecurity hardening, and it's probably the hidden part of the project, but it's months of work to make sure that it's reliable in terms of cybersecurity. We were using also cluster mode that I detailed previously, and this was powered off with the Yocto project, which is a well-known Linux Foundation project used in the industry. Then in May 2022, RTE was pushing to use a Debian flavor. So that was actually the start of this flavor. And in 2023, the SEAPATH project was promoted as early adoption. So for people that are not very familiar with LF Energy and Linux Foundation framework generally, there is different stage for each project, and SEAPATH is in early adoptions, which is actually so far the biggest, the toppest stage for the LF Energy project, and I think we might move to the next one quite soon. In 2023, RTE was actually funding the hardening of SEAPATH Debian, that was actually already done previously. So this is really important for the project and for the Debian flavor. And something important, in 2023, SEAPATH was actually used in productions for airspace program by RTE in web substations in Brittany. So I'm proud because I'm from this region as well. And I know that now RTE is using SEAPATH for 3 substations. I think it's correct, Maxime, right? Yeah, thank you. In 2024, so actually last LF Energy Summit, G. Ivanova was demonstrating the use of a POC, of protection POC using SEAPATH, and this was done actually for National Grid. And to me, it's important because it was a big signal on the market that, you know, even vendors were actually developing product on top of SEAPATH. So as you can see in 2023, the signal of utility, RTE, now the signal of vendors. In 2024, we received a cybersecurity auditing funded by the Linux Foundation Energy. And this was really nice because the results was really promising, saying that we prioritize the security since the beginning, as I explained. And this was actually done by OSTIF, thanks to them. And in 2024, after the LF Energy Summit in Brussels, we decided that it's time to merge all the configurations done for Debian and Yocto, and we've done that. And in 2025, we released the first official version of SEAPATH. This, again, was a big achievement for the project, thanks to all the people involved, because it's the start of the move to production-ready software. In 2025, Red Hat joined the project, and we're actually adding the SEAPATH CentOS flavor. So, as you know, CentOS is not like the official versions of Red Hat, but it's a nice move. It shows the involvement of Red Hat, and it's seen to me as a POC, but it's really promising. And something nice also in 2025, so it's actually happening right now. RTE launched the vPair program, which is actually evaluating the protections on top of SEAPATH, and they are doing that with ABB and Schneider Electric. And again, This is also a very good signal for the market to show that we are actually building a full stack, and the goal is to, of course, to use that in productions once this R&D program is done. So, as a TSC chair, I think it's important for me to share that the diversity is key for open source projects, and that's what we are trying to achieve. We have a mix of utilities, vendors, hardware manufacturers, and pure tech and software companies. Of course, some of them are more using that for the moment and doing the evaluation. Some of them are more advanced. I know that, for instance, of course, RTE is definitely, as you can see, using that in production, but Allender is also considering SEAPATH. They were also involved in the project since the beginning. Elia in Belgium is already having a lab working on SEAPATH. Hydro-Quebec in Canada is also evaluating SEAPATH, and National Grid in UK is doing that with GE Vernova. You're gonna have a talk today from Thomas Schotten. On the vendor side, you have diversity from GE Vernova, Schneider, ABB, Ecofy, Siemens Energy. All of them, they are already using SEAPATH, and that's really important for the project. And don't forget the hardware manufacturers. I know that I'm missing some of them because you are probably working with some others. And it's important to, by the way, to share that SEAPATH is hardware agnostic. So the goal is to work on whole hardware. But personally, I saw some involvement of different hardware manufacturers, so Velotech, Advantech, Aeon. And we have companies like us, Savoir-faire Linux, but also Red Hat, showing big interest. And we are actually bringing our expertise on the pure IT side that is very important for SEAPATH. In terms of contributions, I'm also very proud to see new players coming. So again, we have the historical contributors, Savoir-faire Linux, RTE, Allender, GE Vernova. But we also have Enedis, Red Hat, Smile, Grid2Glade, Elia Group, ABB, Schneider doing some contributions. And as a TSC chair, of course, I will be pushing all the time people to do more and more contributions because that's really nice for the project to share the R&D cost. And it's a way for you, of course, to be very tight to the project and to develop your products with a really nice, vision and to reduce your time to market. So, what we've done since now the last LF Energy Summit, so let's say the last year. Something big to me and very important, again, it's the release of SEAPATH table. Thanks to the maintainer team, so I know Erwan, Mathieu, and Florent, we are actually able now to do some nice release on Debian and on Yocto, and we are offering Ansible configurations that are compatible with those versions. So right now we are running the version 1.1, but we are about to release the version 1.2. And what is good is, we are doing intermediate Ansible releases because we are finding some issues or some improvements, but they are all the time compatible with both versions. For each release on GitHub, so this is a screenshot of the GitHub page, you can have a clear view of what was done, and we are also generating some test images that are ready to go for production, not for production, ready to go for lab, sorry, where all the SSH keys are pre-installed. So the goal is to accelerate the evaluation of SEAPATH for labs, and then we could use that in productions, but don't use the SSH keys we provide here because it's a public one, okay? One very important subject of the project is not to reinvent the wheel and to leverage open source community support. So as you know, Yocto and Debian are releasing very frequently new versions. So in blue, you can see the different versions we've used on SEAPATH. On Yocto, the philosophy is just to follow the long-term support. So we are right now using scarce gap versions of Yocto. That is LTS till 2028. And the next one, that should be this one, will be, of course, used afterwards. On Debian, we are also relying on the stable versions of SEAPATH. I know that Florent from RTE made a good job to move to the last version released this summer, Debian 13. And also, Safe Ansible is not deprecated, so we will use SafeADM instead. There is a POC running. It's not merged yet, but it's very promising. So again, thanks for the contributions. We will go on that. Okay. Something also very nice for the project is we used third parties open source software named Cockpit project to gain web-based admin interface. So it allows you, especially for lab, to have a web view of your cluster. And SFL was developing actually some plugins to monitor your cluster. So you have the SEAPATH cluster monitoring. You can see all the resources working on your cluster. And you can also move some virtual machines from one hypervisor to the other one. So this is, again, something that could be done by Ansible, definitely, with a command line interface. And that will be something that should be used in productions. But a graphical UI, especially for OT guys, it will definitely accelerate the interaction. And I know that many users of SEAPATH are showing interest on Cockpit. So everything, of course, is open source, and you can download that on the SEAPATH GitHub page. Something also nice, it's the integration of third party. The name marketplace, it's maybe too marketing, but as a TSC chair, I just want to avoid the situation where someone could use the project SEAPATH and say, okay, and now what I could do. And I'm pleased to have an official support of ABB SSE 600 SW protection. And we provide all the Ansible inventories, all the playbooks, and the configuration tested on the wiki page and on the Ansible configuration. So as a utility, let's say you want to play with this protections, you've got everything to have the good performances. This is a running work. I mean, maybe we're gonna have some tweaks. I know that RT is also doing with the VPR project some work, but feel free to give some feedbacks, and I will be pleased to integrate that. And for software vendors, I'm more than open to have integration, of course, of third parties. My goal is not to have like a marketplace and to have any commercial relationships, but I just want to make sure that we can leverage SEAPATH to gain real-time performance, IC61A50 low latency, but I'm also open to SCADA, Gateway, whatever. If the goal is simple, is to make sure that we can use SEAPATH. Okay. Last year we were doing many trainings. So many of them were actually carried out by SFL and RT International. We are doing that in Europe mainly, but we are also doing that in Canada in a few weeks. This is nice pictures to see, you know, OT people and IT people together working on SEAPATH and on a real lab. So there is some in RT offices, in RT International, in Ecofy also in Sweden. I know also that we provide some to Elia in Belgium. So this is something very nice for the project because we want to share the knowledge and to make sure that people can interact with the project correctly. Okay. So I know there is some sessions ongoing, and if you are getting interest, feel free to join me. So this year also, we made sure to get feedbacks from users. Let's be honest, I know that SEAPATH is not easy all the time. It's a complex stack. It's a big shift for the industry. And I wanted to make sure that I got feedbacks, and I was personally talking to many people. And we wanted also to find proper solutions to answer those feedbacks. So something important to me, and I'm still humble, but I think that SEAPATH is seen right now as a reference platform, and definitely since the 6 years, I can see that there is a lot of interest from different utilities vendors, and this is proven reliable architectures and components. The cybersecurity focusing is key for the market, and with the audits done by the LF Energy, we prove that. The fact that we are doing hardening with testing approach is really important. We demonstrate in the beginning that we are embracing real-time needs and IEC 61850 low latency needs. And the fact that we are able to deploy protections or virtualized AD, it's definitely important for the project. Our test-driven approach, again, this is probably something that you don't see all the time when you are just approaching the project, but we have 1,000 tests running on real hardware, on Advantech, on Velotech, and I'm of course open to use that on different hardwares. And this is something that demonstrates to OT people that it's running all the time, and I think that it's important for the market. And last but not least, the use of Ansible, once you get to know and interact with it, it allows you to have like repeatable and scalable configurations. There is a nice talk by Erwan today on that, but I've got very positive feedbacks on that. It's not easy because as an open source project, we sometimes have different way of doing, and it's fine. And since the beginning, I'm more than open to do that. But I believe that the multi-OS approach is a strength, because when I'm speaking to different utilities, you don't have all the time the same way to source SEAPATH. You don't want to have exactly the same support. Some utilities, for instance, would like maybe to internalize everything, while some other utilities will say, okay, I just want to use third parties to do that to do that for me. But one important stuff on SEAPATH is where we are using a common architecture and we are using a common configuration. So at the end, you are still using SEAPATH. For the moment, we are using Yocto project and Debian. The philosophy is quite simple. On Yocto, we can build everything by your own. So it means that you can customize that, by yourself, and you can provide patches, and you have like a repeatable systems. While in Debian, you are using pre-built packages, and you are delegating that to the Debian communities. So depending how you want to interact, there is pros and cons. Red Hat, don't get me wrong, there is also preliminary versions of Red Hat. This is very promising, and it's also definitely one potential solutions if you want to have like a support, an external support by Red Hat. Okay? But it's a fact that the kickstart of SEAPATH is complex. Quite often, and yesterday during the meetup, we had some feedbacks on that. The first installations and the first configurations could be complex, especially sometimes when considering limited skills. So we might have some OT people that are playing with SEAPATH. Some of them, and sorry, but they were not, so much familiar with Linux command line systems. I'm doing Linux systems since 20 years, so for me, it's we have like definitely a gap. And the documentation is there, but it could be sometimes, of course, complex to follow. But when it's done, usually, once this step is passed, usually people have very good experience with SEAPATH. So what is next now? And I think, how can we fix that? We are working on a documentation update. Thanks to RTE, there is a funding approach to update the documentations. We made some interviews to get some feedbacks, and I would like to thank the people involved. Florian from Elia. We do have also Sander from Allender. And there is also people from vendor sides, Schneider and Novatec, to get some feedbacks to understand what could be the blocking points. And based on that, we would like to rework a bit the documentations, to do some, to add some missing pages on the how to contribute, to make sure that we can quick start and kickstart very easily the project, even copy-pasting some of the command lines. We want, of course, to integrate more hardware manufacturers and software providers. And we want to define cluster scenarios and refactoring the cluster page. Also, LF Energy, and this is important to mention, of course, LF Energy is willing to fund some of this work, especially to provide some external assistance to rework a bit the page, rework a bit, maybe get rid of Confluence or use another tool. It's quite open, but this is also something that is a share cost, and thanks for LF Energy for that. Last but not, I think it's something very interesting that will be actually demonstrated tomorrow on the demo station 2 is the use of SEAPATH installer. So let's imagine we do have a lab. We want to make sure that people can simply install the basic configuration of SEAPATH so that at the end you can learn on Ansible to deploy all the complex configurations. And we actually were not reinventing the wheel. We were actually using another open source project. The name is Calamares. It's actually the solutions used when you are installing your Debian at home. It's open source, and we want to make sure that you can choose here the version of SEAPATH you want to install. Depends doesn't matter what you want. If it could be Debian, Yocto, CentOS, or whatever, you can choose it. You can define the SSH keys you want to install. You want to define the basic network settings, so only the administration link, the disk installations where you want to install. You click, it's installing that, and then you can run your Ansible playbooks to have your complex configuration set up. We have a running demo. To me, it's something very nice, and I hope that it could facilitate the installations for newcomers. We know also that SEAPATH is addressing the VM, but there is some use cases where actually containers could be used, and this is something running, and you can have a look on the station 2. But we don't want to, again, to reinvent the wheel, and we want to make sure that we can have common systems to manage your cluster properly. So we introduce the use of Docker and Podman on top of high availability features that we are already using on SEAPATH, named Pacemaker and CoroSync, and CFRBD to do the network storage and the data synchronization. So you can play with VM, basically, and you can play with containers that could be similar and the same. The advantages could be that you can have better performance. Of course, when dealing with containers, you are sharing the Linux kernel between containers, so there is some issues. For instance, if you want to run protections, there is some open questions that are valid. But we want to, again, to open the use cases, depending also if you have a mono vendor, multi-vendor, that could be different. Anyway, please check the demo station and give us our feedback, and we will be pleased to answer to you. Something also very important to me, because I was doing a presentation last LF Energy Summit, it's a conformance program of SEAPATH. Again, there is many hardware manufacturers that could actually be used to deploy SEAPATH, and it's important to recall that SEAPATH is hardware agnostic, but we want to make sure that someone, a utility, for instance, that would like to evaluate SEAPATH, they say, okay, I could use this typical hardware, and I know that I have good chance to have a good experience. So we were working very closely with LF Energy staff, because there is some legal aspects on that. And we want to make sure that we have an open conformance program, so that hardware manufacturers can say, okay, I'm SEAPATH ready, SEAPATH certified, the name is not defined yet. I made all the tests to show that, demonstrate that. And that's a way for us to say, okay, please, hardware manufacturers, install SEAPATH, pre-generate and or pre-provide SEAPATH-ready images, and for utilities vendors, that will facilitate your work. Okay? So we should have. This is just like some legal aspects to polish, but since all the tests we are running on SEAPATH. Everything is open source and ready to go. You know, the big concern is already covered, and we should release the participation form quite soon. So thanks again to LF Energy staff for helping us on that. So the clock is running. This is actually my last slide. There is a very interesting track on SEAPATH. After me, Bastien will actually demonstrate the use of virtualization and SEAPATH in RTE. Then we do have the same experience with Thomas Sharton from National Grid in UK. Matthias and Erwan will do a presentation quite technical, but on Ansible and Bootsy, so this is also something very nice. Christophe on the digital sovereignty to have more like would say a strategic role. Something quite nice from Ecofi, we got Jakob Lindqvist, I think I'm pronouncing that quite well, that will actually share his experience to build a product, an end-to-end substation digitalization with QMU 800 with SEAPATH. Matthew tomorrow will do a presentation on the cybersecurity, how to deal with SBOM and vulnerabilities in SEAPATH. And last but not least, please join the demo, share your opinions, and share some potential ideas. We are really open. That's it. If you want to reach the community, everything is there. I will not detail right now that because the clock is running. But please, if you have some questions, come to me.